Hello and welcome to the topic Teaching as a Profession. What is a profession? There is still a debate on is teaching a profession, and that is what we are trying to explain in this unit. Before that, we should be aware about what is meant by a profession and what is the main attributes of a profession are. It is then only we can conclude whether teaching can be considered as a profession. A profession can be defined as an occupation, practice, or vocation requiring mastery of a complex set of knowledge and skills through formal education and practical experience. Hodge and Johnson defined profession as a vocation requiring some significant body of knowledge that is applied with high degree of consistency in the service of some relevant segment of society. In short, we can say a profession is a group of people in a learned occupation, the members of which agree to abide by specified rules of conduct when practicing the profession. There are many professions and they are controlled to varying degrees by professional, regulatory or governmental bodies. Typical professions are medicine, dentistry, law, engineering, architecture, social work, nursing, accountancy. Most definitions of profession identify working for the public good as among the characteristics of the profession. And there are many more characteristics which define a profession. They are great responsibility. Professional deals in matter of vital importance to their clients and are therefore entrusted with grave responsibilities and obligations. Given these inherent obligations, professional work typically involves circumstances where carelessness, inadequate skill or breach of ethics would be significantly damaging to client and or his fortunes. Accountability. Professionals hold themselves ultimately accountable for the quality of their work with the client. The profession may or may not have mechanism in place to reinforce and ensure adherence to this principle among its members. For example, guarantees and or contractual provisions. Based on specialized theoretical knowledge, professionals under specialized services based on theory and knowledge and skills that are most often peculiar to their profession and generally beyond the understanding and or capability of those outside of the profession. Sometimes the specialization will extend to access to the tools and technologies used in the profession, for example, medical equipment. Institutional preparation. Professions typically require a significant period of hands-on practical experience in the protected company of senior members before aspirants are recognized as professionals. After this provisional period, ongoing education toward professional development is compulsory. A profession may or may not require formal credentials and or other standards for admission. Autonomy. Professionals have control over and correspondingly ultimate responsibility for their own work. Professionals tend to define the terms, processes and conditions of work to be performed for a client either directly or as preconditions for their ongoing agency employment. Clients rather than customers. Members of a profession exercise discrimination in choosing clients rather than simply accepting any interested party as customer as merchants do. Direct working relationships. Professionals habitually work directly with their clients rather than through intermediaries or proxies. Ethical constraints. Due to the other characteristics on this list, there is a clear requirement for ethical constraints in the professions. Professionals are bound to a code of conduct or ethics specific to distinct profession and sometimes the individual. Professionals also aspire toward a general body of core values which are centered upon an uncompromising and non-conflicted regard for the client's benefit and best interest. Merit-based. In a profession, members achieve employment and success based on merit and corresponding voluntary relationships rather than on corrupted ideals such as social principle, mandated support or extortion. Therefore, a professional is one who must attract clients and profits due to the merits of his work. In the absence of this characteristic, issues of responsibility, accountability and ethical constraints become irrelevant. capitalist morality. The responsibilities inherent to the practice of a profession are impossible to rationally maintain without a moral foundation that flows from a recognition of the singular right of the individual to his own life, along with all of its inherent and potential sovereign value, a concept that only capitalism recognizes, upholds, and protects. Dalton E. McFarland lays down the main attributes of a profession are the existence of a body of specialized knowledge or techniques, formalized method of acquiring training and experience, the establishment of representative organization with professionalism as its goal, the formation of ethical codes for the guidance of conduct, the charging of fees based on services with due regards for the purity of service over the desire for monetary rewards. Teaching as a profession. By most definitions, an occupation like medicine or law is a profession if its members take personal responsibility for the quality of their work, hold each other accountable for its quality, and recognize and require special training in order to practice it. By this definition, teaching has definitely become more professional than in the past. Let us examine what a teacher does in this present world, which is technology rich, rapidly changing, and information driven. It seems that teaching well and appropriate to these new conditions involves constantly researching and exercising oneself in his subject area, continually accessing, evaluating, and appropriately applying new techniques and strategies with your learners. Engage in action research to test original and class situation specific strategies. Engaging in ongoing and constructive conversation and extend the knowledge and the experience of individual educators to group knowledge. Skillfully finding and developing authentic learning resources and sharing them with a greater education community. Remaining aware of current events, advances in technology and social conditions, and engaging in ongoing and collaborative curriculum development that addresses and leverages change. Liaising with local community to bring the village into the classroom and to project the classroom out into the community. Engaging in professional development, including self-directed local school authority opportunities and larger conferences. Practicing a learning lifestyle, sharing personal learning within your professional environment, modeling lifelong learning. By analyzing all these activities, we can understand that teachers have an increased responsibility in the present world. They have responsibility not only for their students' academic success, but also for their own development as teachers. Becoming a new teacher now requires more specialized work than in the past, as reflected in the increased requirements for certification and licensing in many societies and regions. The increased requirements are partly a response to the complexities created by the increasing diversity of students and increasing use of technology in classrooms. Thus, teaching, having all the attributes of a profession, is obviously a profession like any other. It even has a code of ethics, and it also demands a standard of practice. The standards of practice and code of ethics for the teaching profession. The standards of practice for the teaching profession provides a framework of principles that describes the knowledge, skills, and value inherent in teaching profession. These standards articulate the goals and aspirations of the profession. These standards convey a collective vision of professionalism that guides the daily practices of members of the teaching profession. Why we need standards of practice in teaching profession? To inspire a shared vision for teaching profession, to identify the values, knowledge and skills that are distinctive to the teaching profession, to guide the professional judgment and actions of the teaching profession, to promote a common language that fosters an understanding of what it means to be a member of the teaching profession. The standards of practice for the teaching profession are commitment to students and students' learning. Teachers are dedicated in their care and commitment to students. They treat students equitably and with respect and are sensitive to factors that influence individual student learning. They facilitate the development of students are contributing citizens of the society. Professional knowledge. Teachers try to be current in their professional knowledge and recognize its relationship to practice. They understand and reflect on student development, learning theory, pedagogy, curriculum, ethics, educational research and related policies and legislation to inform professional judgment in practice. Professional practice. Teachers apply professional knowledge and experience to promote student learning. They use appropriate pedagogy, assessment and evaluation, resources and technology in planning for and responding to the needs of individual students and learning communities. They refine their professional practice through ongoing inquiry, dialogue and reflection. Leadership in learning communities. Teachers promote and participate in the creation of collaborative, safe and supportive learning communities. They recognize their shared responsibilities and their leadership roles in order to facilitate student success. They try to maintain and uphold the principles of the ethical standards in these learning communities. Ongoing professional learning. Teachers recognize that a commitment to ongoing professional learning is integral to effective practice and to student learning. Professional practice and self-directed learning are informed by experience, research, collaboration and knowledge. Professionalism and ethics in teaching. Historically, ethics is the study of philosophical ideas of morality. The study of ethics is built around the question, what defines a good and bad? Philosophers have considered this question to be of chief importance as a conceptual pursuit because it has application beyond the theoretical good and bad and what defines something as such as directed influence on society. Since educational practices do not take place outside of a society and are directly related to the culture in which they are based, ethics are an important part of any school or teacher. Because society still largely depends on the idea that there is good or bad, or acceptable and unacceptable. Teachers must consider the ethical ramifications of their teaching styles and personal actions. This includes equitable treatment of all the students as well as maintaining the proper student and teacher relationship. Ethics in education dictate that a high degree of responsibility comes with the privilege of teaching and mentoring a society's children, and teachers are to act accordingly. The relationship between professionalism and ethics is significant. Professionalism in any discipline is defined by the responsibility to society of that discipline as determined by the society in which it is practiced. The responsibility of teachers is profound and the professionalism expected great. Similarly, the ethics of teaching are derived from societal values and importance placed on education. Teachers, as professionals who serve society, should abide with integrity by the expectations of professionalism and ethics set by that society. Codes of ethics often cover teachers' professional obligations towards students, parents, colleagues and themselves. Students. A code of ethics for educators always addresses issues such as fairness and confidentiality. Teachers may not discriminate against students for any reason, and they must not share information about the student with anyone other than school professionals who need the information to assist the student. Teachers are expected to provide a physically and emotionally safe learning environment for students that include the full scope of the subject matter being taught. Some codes of ethics make it clear that any sexual or romantic interaction between a teacher and a student is verboten, as is the teacher providing drugs or alcohol to a student or permitting their use. Parents. Teachers must always deal with parents in a professional manner. The code of ethics states that teachers should work to collaborate with parents and build an atmosphere of trust. Teachers must also never allow themselves to treat a student differently based on the student's parents' position in the community. It is generally considered to be unethical for teachers to accept costly gifts from parents. School districts may set formal limits on gifts. Colleagues. Teachers' codes of ethics often address a teacher's relationship with her colleagues. This includes teachers may not make false statements about colleagues, curse fellow teachers, or retaliate against other teachers. Teachers are expected to treat colleagues fairly and to encourage one another to adhere to high professional standards. The uniqueness of teaching profession. The teaching profession is profoundly unique. There are some ways in which teachers or educators are unique professionals. First, teaching is a very complex and demanding career that requires teachers to be managers of people, analyzers of data, and researchers of best practices and instructional methodologies, and these skills are utilized each day. The responsibility is more in teaching than in any other major profession that required the same unique qualifications. Second, teachers are also unique because the profession is now driven by so much data. Teachers must now be statisticians and researchers, fully accountable in some form or fashion for managing data in the areas of assessment, attendance, graduation rates, discipline percentages, and gifted and special education progress. The administrative responsibilities of a teacher are definitely higher. Third, teachers are required to be learning and behavioral specialists and to be able to apply differentiated instruction. Differentiated instruction is a mandate for all teachers that require teachers to find effective teaching strategies that will meet the needs of students with different learning styles, all in the same classroom at the same time. Teachers must then be competent and active in enlisting the unique resources and skills necessary to meet the needs of kinesthetic, visual, and auditory learning styles. Additionally, the special challenges of addressing emotional behavioral disorders, learning disabilities, and attention deficit problems all in the same classroom broaden the gap between teachers and managers. Today's teachers are practitioners, researchers, and change agents unlike any other professionals. Fourth, continuing on the same theme, teachers must work with every child despite the challenges of that child. In nearly every other profession, management is able to pick out the bad product or the poor employee so that productivity and quality can be increased. Educators do not have that same luxury. Instead, public education demands that every child be given the resources and opportunity to succeed. This includes good students who really want to learn and some bad students who are not interested in studies. Instead of weeding out the bad students, educators are required to manage all the situations, to provide alternatives to parents, and to somehow effectively guide troubled students through the educational process. And teachers realize that they must do so regardless of social and economic situations, and in some cases the lack of positive parental guidance that might influence the behavior of the student. Teachers get into the business to change and enhance lives uniquely and one by one as needed. Fifth, teachers are unique because the line of accountability in education has many levels and tangents. This accountability is not necessarily a bad thing, but it has added to the complexity of teaching. In one way or another, teachers are impacted by the government, a state department of education, the local school district, and administration at their school. It means that the results of classroom practices go far beyond the classroom, students, parents, and principals. We can't find another career field that has as many accountability as variables levels as does the field of public education. Sixth, educators are unique in that no other professional group manages so many people as so responsible for individual progress. Teachers work with up to 180 students or more each day and are required to ensure that each of those students succeed academically. Young people from the ages of 4 to 20 are instructed, counseled, directed, nurtured, motivated, inspired, and coached by teachers. It is a reality that children spend more time at school than they do awake at home, and that children are influenced by more adults in school than in any other social circle. That makes the public school system the single most influential force on children. Teaching then is a unique career that is faced with high liability and tremendous responsibility because real lives are dependent on competent and professional adults. So yes, teaching is unique and it requires educators to be multifaceted and multi-talented. Very few professions demand what is required of teachers in the public sector. The demands are not necessarily bad, but they are indications of the complex nature of the teaching profession. Those who are cut out for these unique profession are called often naturally skilled or highly and thoroughly trained and committed to success. Let us summarize the important ideas in this unit. The present unit attempts to define teaching as a profession. In the first module, we have tried to explain what is meant by a profession. We have listed the characteristics of profession, and based on all the characteristics of profession, we attempted to define teaching as a profession. So in the second module, we have gone through the characteristics of teaching and tried to find out whether it matches to the characteristics of a profession. And finally, we have seen that teaching shares the characteristics of a profession, even it has some standards of practice. And we have already listed the standards of principle in the third module. And the last module says about the uniqueness of teaching profession. Teaching has some factors which help to distinguish it from all other professions and make it unique. Hope that you can answer the questions given here. What is meant by a profession? What are the characteristics of a profession? What are the important activities included in the teaching profession? What is meant by standard of practice in the profession of teaching? What is meant by code of ethics? Here are reference books for your further reading and understanding. Teaching as a Profession by Sidney Doris, C. Merrill, 1968. Those Who Can Teach by Kevin Ryan, James M. Cooper, Sensei Learning, 2008. Hope that you have enjoyed this session. We can meet again for another unit. Till then, take care.